For every teacher I observed for this series, I could sum up their teaching goals in one sentence. Would those sentences be accurate to their ideas or their goals? Maybe. Then again, maybe not. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing teaching philosophy and related topics and ways to make sure your teaching lines up with your philosophy. Welcome to the music ed edition of 10-Minute Band. Now I'm going to pause for dramatic effect. If I had a song or intro for the series, this is where I'd put it. Also, I think this is going to be closer to 13 minutes than 10 minutes, but I promise those last 3 minutes will be worth it, so make sure you stick around. Alright, let's talk about what I've seen in the observations I've done. So the first school I'm going to talk about is a middle school where the students start band in 5th grade. So the middle school, they teach 3 grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I would say the teacher's goals differ a little bit for each grade. For 6th grade, I would sum up this teacher's goals as giving students the space and opportunity to explore their instruments more and to begin learning how to play in their group. I ended up spending the least amount of time observing 6th grade because there were other school events scheduled that day, but I would say the evidence of this goal was really from the students' eagerness to play their instruments, even though there was another event happening. There was a percussionist who, as soon as he walked into the room, he got his drumsticks out and started tapping out rhythms on the carpeted counter. There was a trumpet player that they weren't getting instruments out that day, so he had to walk over to his locker, unlock it, and say hi to and bye to his instrument to make sure it wasn't lonely since they weren't playing that day. So it really was great to see that excitement from the students and that eagerness. And I think that really pays testimony to the teacher's goals of fostering that excitement and that eagerness and that ability to just explore something new. So it was a little different in the 8th grade setting because students already know the workings of their instruments and they've been playing in an ensemble for a couple of years. From an observer standpoint, I would say the teacher's goals with the 8th grade band was to prepare students for playing in a high school level ensemble by teaching them to think as independent musicians and to make their own adjustments in their playing. I would also say one of this teacher's goals and part of her philosophy is building relationships with students. There was a lot of joking between the teachers and students, which was great to see. It was really wholesome and sweet. And it didn't take away from the ensemble experience. Some teachers, I think, worry that it will, but when done right, it can really enhance it. So I really think that was a big part of her goals and philosophy is building those relationships with students, which it's not always easy to observe those things because all of these like philosophy, goals, etc., they're all very personal and internal, but it was really clear from watching this teacher's report with the students that interactions and relationships with students are really important to her. So teaching at different levels will most likely influence your teaching goals, and teaching in different areas with different demographics will also probably influence those goals and philosophies a bit. So another one of the ensembles I observed recently was a highly competitive high school band from the Chicago suburbs. And I had the great fortune of working with them in sectionals and also watching them perform at a very high level concert band competition. And I would sum up the goals of this director, I would essentially paraphrase it as high performance of, or high execution of musicianship through performance. And the reason I came to this conclusion, it was highly influenced by what the director planned and how he planned. He chose highly advanced music that was really traditionally known within the band world, and he meticulously planned out sectionals because the band got to work with some college music education students, and the director specifically planned out what sections of each piece he wanted rehearsed for different instrument sections and what to work on specifically within those sections. Another reason, so I got to see this band in person and I got to see them perform, which also was a very, I don't want to say intense, but it was a very, the focus was really on the performance a lot. And so then I got curious and looked up their website, their band website, because it's a high school and most high school bands have band websites. And the website confirmed what I was seeing in the ensemble, which is great to see that alignment of philosophy from the teacher standpoint and what students and what people coming in would observe. And to pull a direct quote from their website, talking about their top group, the Wind Symphony is committed to developing a strong understanding of ensemble performance concepts and instrument pedagogy in every student through the study of traditional and contemporary and secular and sacred repertoire of the highest caliber. So again, there's that really strong focus on high quality repertoire and high quality instrument pedagogy and performance concepts. Contrasting that band, another band I had the opportunity to work with was one from Chicago, and the demographics of this ensemble were vastly different. There were a lot more students who would identify as minorities, and another big difference is most students didn't start playing an instrument until their first year of high school. The competitive one, I believe they started in 5th grade, maybe 4th or 6th, I'm not quite sure, but kind of that early middle school, late elementary school age. But with this group from Chicago, they didn't start playing their instruments until their first year of high school. And if I remember correctly, also, the director didn't have a budget to work with, which automatically really changes what you have to work with and what you can do within the band world and how much time that getting your materials is going to take and how much effort that is. So for that director, his primary goal was providing students with the opportunity to make music and to play music in a group. And that was very apparent by his working through, there were some logistic problems of the school getting to work with some college students, but it all eventually got worked out. And so there was a lot of time and a lot of effort put in on that director's side and the university side of making sure the students could have that opportunity to learn and that opportunity to just grow and see what music can be and how far they can take it. So again, it's a high school group, so I decided to look up their website. And the band's website is very different than the competition group. The more competitive group, there were lots of pictures. It was this very polished kind of recruitment type website almost. And there was information about auditions and all the different ensembles. This second high school group, I should say, their website was more like a classroom instructional site. That's how I would describe it. There was links to the Google Classroom sites. There was a note from the director. And one thing that really stood out to me from that page was after the director's letter, he wrote, "Stay safe and creative." And that just stood out to me of those are his priorities, are the safety of his students and giving them a space they can be creative. Now, I want to make it very clear that certain goals and values for a band program are not better than others. The important part is making sure that your goals are coming through in your teaching. Ultimately, the students should know what your teaching philosophy and goals are. This doesn't mean you have to print it out in your syllabus or handbook at the beginning of the year, but that is certainly an option if that's something you want to do. Really, it's just about making sure your lessons align with your beliefs and that they also align with what the students need. Like, say you have a strong belief in creativity, and giving students the options and opportunities to create something new. If that's one of your strong goals, you probably want to make sure you're not spending all of your time just rehearsing pieces. You might want to introduce some more activities that maybe have more student input, student creativity. So now you might be asking why you should spend your very limited free time to write this down. I found a summary in the abstract of a journal article by Lena Sikorsky, which I will cite in the description of the video. And it said, acquiring a philosophy is powerful in that it directs and guides a teacher's teaching practices in the classroom, as well as how they perceive teaching and learning and the students around them. I just thought that was a great way to kind of summarize it, so I'm just going to leave that there. The next question you might be asking is, how do I write one of these things? It sounds very complicated and abstract. Well, the short answer is, it is very complicated and abstract, and you kind of just have to try writing it. It is painfully difficult to boil down your passion and desire to teach into a short blurb of words. I've kind of seen two different ways to approach this. The first is kind of minimalism, if you will. It was taught to me my freshman year of college, and that technique said limit yourself to 6 words. This adds the extra challenge of figuring out what words you can hyphenate, or when you can use a slash sign and how many words you can use that for. So you can kind of like sneak in more than 6 words. Don't think that's the intent, but everyone did it. All kidding aside, it forces you to get down to only the most essential core of why and how you want to teach, which is very helpful, as challenging as it can be. Another approach, which is kind of the one I've used most recently, is to set aside a block of time and just word vomit and just write into a document everything about why and how you want to teach and what you want students to get from your teaching. After you do that, you want to set a reminder and forget about it for a few days. And then when you come back to it in this second round, the goal is to make it make sense to another reader. So this more normally means deleting a lot of words, and at least in my case, it also meant deleting a lot of run-on sentences. Then you'll set another reminder on your phone and leave it for a week. And then come back to it a third time and edit what you said to be more articulate and to better align with your core beliefs. And I would say kind of do this third step of give yourself some time and revise it until you have a statement you're happy enough with. And I say happy enough intentionally because it is impossible to turn a passion into a written statement. That being said, you're now probably asking, if that's the case, and it's impossible, why am I writing this? And I would say the better you can articulate these beliefs, the better you can work them into your teaching. And don't worry if you're not the best writer in the world. I certainly am not. And going through this process is for you and your beliefs. It's not about how many words you can correctly use from a thesaurus, or how fancy you can make it sound, or how many core art standards you can add in there. It's really, I keep repeating myself here, but it's about you and your beliefs. And it's for you. So, thank you for listening. I know this episode was very philosophical and maybe not as concrete as you may have hoped, but I hope you still found it helpful and you're maybe inspired to create a teaching philosophy and goals if you haven't before. And if you have before, or if you're a seasoned teacher, maybe this is inspiring to kind of go back and take a look and just reflect on how your teaching lines up with them. And if someone came in and watched your class or classes, would they see those things that you want them to see? Because that's what your students are seeing. So thank you again for listening, and take care.